Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome to the Joy Channel podcast, a podcast where we tune into something good through ourselves, through shifting perspectives, self developing, and bringing our souls to the forefront. Welcome to the stage, Dani Kenney, master coach and founder of the International Women Empowerment Community. She is the CEO of Dani Kenney Coaching, and she is a general wonderful person. She is certified in NLP, EFT, and hypnotherapy. So she's got all sorts of modalities under her belt and then some. And she is a wonderful, fantastic manifester as well. So we're here today to tune into her wisdom, her joy, her expertise, and bring it to you guys.
Hello, my love. I'm so happy to be here with you and your incredible community.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So, Dani, what was it that first brought you into the coaching world?
Oh my goodness, I love this. So what's so interesting about this is I started coaching before a lot of people knew what coaching was. I think here in 2025, coaching is pretty mainstream, and I'm really, really grateful for that. I would say that most people have heard of coaching. A lot of people, at least in our spaces, have worked with a coach, whether they've paid a mentor one-on-one or been involved in some sort of free coaching opportunity or downloaded some sort of a course. But I have been in the coaching industry. I have to like really redo the math. I always say for a decade, but it's actually been a little bit longer than that. I stepped officially into the coaching space in 2013. So I jokingly call myself a grandma in the coaching space because I've been around before Zoom. I used to host my coaching courses via phone. There was this program called Free Conference Call HD, and my clients would call in, and I would basically have my phone on speaker and be speaking into what felt like a dark hole. And then I would hear like voices speak back at me. And so, what got me into the coaching industry really was my journey of becoming a mom. So I forever had this vision of being, and I think I am that in many ways, but even as a little girl, I saw myself wearing this professional business suit with this leather briefcase, walking up to this gorgeous building in like Manhattan, this skyscraper. I knew I wanted to do something that felt really big, and I wanted to be a leader of sorts. And the way that I do it now is very differently, but I had a wonderful career, a job that I loved, essentially working for someone else. I really never thought that I would step into the world of entrepreneurship. I didn't think that that was for me for tons of different reasons. But after being in that job for a while, climbing my way, up that imaginary ladder, I thought I was going to do that forever. And then when I had my first daughter 12 years ago, there's a moment that you have. I like to call this a holy shift moment. And we all have our own version of this, whether you're a mother or not. But it's a holy shift moment is one of those moments where life as you know it will never be the same. It was like this thing happened, and then the trajectory of my future forever changed. And in that moment, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I cannot go back to life as I used to know it. And I think that's sort of like a no duh moment when you become a mom. But it wasn't just about motherhood, it was about my purpose and my career. And I felt like if I am going to leave this baby in the arms of someone else so that I can go do work, the work has to be really, really, really deeply meaningful. And I didn't feel that way about my career at the time. And I was vaguely familiar with the coaching industry. I've always been obsessed with personal and professional development. I've always, since I was a little girl, have been eager to like squeeze every ounce of goodness out of life and be the best that I absolutely can be. And so I started exploring coaching and decided I think that this is a route that I'm going to go down. So I literally had a 3-month-old baby in my arms when I essentially went back to school to become a coach. You don't have to go to school or get certified to become a coach, but that was important to me. So I was up super late at night, multiple times a week on calls with my workbooks and doing like kind of pro bono client work and exploring what that was. And within a year, I had left my full-time job and gone all in on coaching. And my daughter will be 12 this year. So that was 12 years ago, and I've never looked back. So that's a little bit of what brought me to the moment where we are right now.
I love that. If you could go back in time and give you from 12 years ago one message, what would you say to her?
What would I say to her? Really, what I'd say to her, because I can't imagine her doing anything differently. Like, I wouldn't say, oh, you should have done this, or like, take this turn and not that turn. If I could, Dani, right now, could go back, I would just tell her that I'm so proud of her. And I would really reassure her choices. And I would say, I know that you are terrified. And I know that you're stepping out in insane faith right now. And you might not believe me, but it's all going to work out. It's all going to pay off. It is going to be better than you ever could have imagined. So keep going, which standing here today, we know she didn't actually need any of those words to keep going because she did. But I would really just want to speak life into her. Especially along that journey, those moments where she questioned and doubted and thought, like, is this really for me? I would love to just meet her in those moments and tell her that it is, but clearly she figured that out.
I love that. I love that. I had a similar experience earlier the week. I was writing an Instagram post and I was like, if I could tell myself from 8 years ago one thing, it would be keep going, which I didn't
Going.
need to because I'm here. So clearly I did. So I'm wondering, what is your favorite or one of your favorite manifestation stories?
OMG. There are so many. I am, I mean, I think everybody who's probably listening in could geek out about manifestation all the live long day. And I'm one of those people, not everybody is a vision board person, but like I love them so much. On the other side, we're in my office right now. I have like all I one, two, three, four, five, six, seven vision boards hanging across from me right now. I purposely have them on the other side of my desk. And so there's so many, but to be honest, my favorite manifestation story is about the house that I'm standing in right now. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you one to one, but so this manifestation took place, gosh, not even 2 years ago, like 18 months ago. And technically, so it was 2 years ago, April. My husband and I were on a road trip, and I love me a road trip. There's something so expansive about like the wide open road. We were driving to Utah to the Red Rocks. We were going to a wedding. We didn't have our kids. Our family's favorite thing is a road trip, but this was really special because it was just my husband and I. When you have three kids, which I don't know if I mentioned that I'm a mom, but I have three little ones. And so we really, my husband and I don't get a chance to go on like full blown trips, just the two of us very often. And he was driving, which he normally does. And there's just, again, like this expansive feeling that I get in my body when I'm in the car with my loved ones, going to somewhere fun where we're going to have adventures. And I remember we were in this sort of like limbo when it came to our living situation. We had intuitively sold the home that we owned. We knew things were going to be changing in the market. And so we sold the home that we owned and we were renting, like just kind of ready to like pounce on where we were going to go and if we were going to buy or not. And so because we were in that space, I opened up my notebook because I have notebooks with me, multiple notebooks all day, like everywhere I go. And I opened up a notebook, and on the very top line, I wrote dream home. And I looked at my husband and said, okay, babe, this is not like the non-negotiables list. Like, if we're going to buy it, it must have these like three things. I was like, I want us to dream as big as humanly possible. Like, we are not going to hold back. And so we wanted for the kids, I don't really care that much about a pool, but like my husband had promised the kids a pool, so it had to have a pool. If we were gonna have a pool, I needed to have a hot tub. We wanted a nice big backyard, like a backyard where we could host people. I wanted the inside of our home to be like wide open. We honestly had like 12 or 13 things on this list. One of the things that I put down was like I wanted an infrared sauna, like kind of bougie, but I really wanted that. And so again, 12 or 13 things on this list. Less than 2 months later, my husband gets a job offer, which would have us move from Northern California to Southern California and San Diego. So he gets the job offer on a Friday. We get on the phone with real estate professionals on Sunday. Tuesday, we take a virtual tour of the home we're standing in. like jaw on the floor. The house is beyond anything I could ever imagine. That year, we had gone to Maui to celebrate my husband's 40th birthday. Maui is like our home away from home. My backyard, I'm staring at it right now. I don't know if you can hear the birds chirping. It literally looks like a little slice of Hawaiian paradise. Like you don't find this stuff here. And so that Tuesday we had done the virtual tour. Thursday we got our offer, like it was negotiations by Friday, one week. Job offer Friday. By the following Friday, we were in escrow. A month later, we were in the home. And this home checks off 10 of the like 13 box. The one thing that it didn't have was my husband's putting green. And I remember showing it has the infrared sauna, by the way. I remember showing the realtor this list, and she said she'd never seen anything like that before. So this is the biggest and most expensive manifestation story. But that was one of those moments where I was like, okay, if you don't believe in the law of attraction, which is just as real as the law of gravity, if you don't believe in manifestation and you hear about this story is going to change your mind. So that's one of the bajillion manifestation stories, but one of my favorite ones to date.
I love hearing that. I love it. I love, especially like, you're like, you wrote down your list, you got clear on what you desired, and then you get to receive it. And that's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And, we've talked about on this podcast before, law of attraction, law of assumption. I like to call it law of emittance, because what we emit, we get to
I
receive.
love that. So good.
Yes. And so right now I'm looking at my vision board on my wall and like my desired view and everything, my album covers for my singles I have coming out and everything. And I just love hearing success stories and getting to witness people in their mastery and in the precision, because sometimes people are afraid to ask for what they actually want because they have a story of already like, well, I'm not going to get that, so I'm just going to ask for less, and then they get less, and then they're only kind of satisfied. And that's why whenever I have someone come in, I'm like, what's your big dream? Do not hold back when you tell me. Like, go bigger.
Yes.
Tell me the whole
Yes.
thing.
Yeah,
So
I think that's huge. I feel like in this day and age, what I've noticed with even myself, but definitely my clients, there are moments where I think, just forget how big we can dream. And we don't give ourselves permission to go as big as humanly possible. And I think we just do not only a massive disservice to ourselves, but everyone around us. One of my favorite things, and I see this for you, I'll never forget a mentor of mine said this, and I was like, I'm going to borrow that. But what it means to become a possibility portal. And so, in the most loving way, I know that my journey and what I've created and the things that matter to me are unique to me. And it's not necessarily that I think other people want exactly what I have. Um, but I want to be an embodiment of you can create whatever it is that you desire. I'll literally write in my journal and pray prayers along the lines of like, God, let me be the living, breathing example of what it means to live the most miraculous life. And I only want to be that so that I can show other. Of course, I want that for myself because that just feels really dreamy and expansive. But I want to be that first and foremost so that other women, other moms, other anybody else who just needs to know that she can dream bigger, like please let me be the example for that. And I will not let you down. I will not let your people down. That's like one of my favorite prayers to pray.
can you guide us in a little prayer right now?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, of course. So it's so funny because the realm of spirituality and faith is so big for me. It's a conversation that I have a lot inside of my spaces. And I was actually just this weekend, I was at something known as a religious education conference. And so just for a little bit of context, I really deeply align with God. That's the word that I use. That's who I pray to. And I also deeply honor, I have lots of clients who prefer universe or source, whatever that might be. There's a fun acronym that I use called GUS, which is God, universe, spirit, God, universe, source. So when I pray, I pray to God. So I want to go ahead and say, Dear God, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the gift of this day, this opportunity to show up, this opportunity to have this conversation. Let the exact right words reach the hearts that you would have them reach. Let this conversation be something that is so wildly and deeply activating. Let this be a conversation that allows the women, the people who listen, to feel like a homecoming, a remembering of what's possible for them, a remembering of your goodness and your grace and the plan that you have for our lives, and the fact that nothing can stop your plan and what you have in store for each and every one of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your goodness. Amen. Aho. And so it is.
Absolutely beautiful. I love that. Every time you say Gus, I think of Gus from Cinderella.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I've never actually thought about that. And now every time I say it, that's the exact visual that I'm going to get for sure.
Gus.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And the phrase that I was thinking of when you were speaking was, so I had resistance to using the word God for a few years,
Yeah.
especially like when I was experiencing a ton of physical pain and I was looking at the world and being like, how could God let this happen? And it
Hmm.
wasn't until I had my reawakening and I met God within myself and
Mm.
things that I like really realized that from my perspective, I understand now what it means that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient.
Yes.
So God as source energy, God as all things is like every single molecule, every person that you meet, every decision ever made. It can only ever be God pretending not to know that it is God.
Yes, there was this slide. I'd never heard this before. I want to share this. So, at this conference I was at, there was over 140 different workshops that you could choose from over the span of 2 days. And there were only 6 sessions. So, like, narrowing it down was so hard. But the very first one I chose, it was called um, Embracing the Divine Life. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I need to go to that. And it was all about different virtues and how we can live into those and how they expand our lives. But he had said this quote, and it's not actually scripture, so it's not out of the Bible, but I love this. And it reminds me, Rosemary, of what you just said. It says, the Son of God became man so that the sons of men might become gods. Translate that. We had the gift of Jesus, one of the most famous healers ever. And Jesus came so that we could find the God within ourselves, the healer within ourselves. And I was just shook. I loved that.
Love that as well. That quote, the actual from the Bible that says, all these things you shall do in greater. All these things you shall do in greater. And when I had my first awakening when I was 5, and I think I told you this story in a voice note once, but when I had that first awakening, it's because I breathed. My dad taught me progressive muscle relaxation because I was little and I didn't want to go to sleep before going to kindergarten. So I would just breathe and I recognized, oh, there's space. So then I started asking questions and I asked to, you know, what did Jesus know? What does God know? And then I saw everyone connected as energy and getting to like witness things. And it's like, we're all children of God. We are all God. We can all do what Jesus did and more. And I remember running downstairs the next day and be like, guys, guess what guess what I discovered? And my parents were like, we know, but you can't tell anyone because they'll think you're crazy. So I spent like, they were like, just act normal at school. And then so it wasn't until literally like last year or 2 years ago that I talked to my mom and I said, do you remember that? When I like ran downstairs, they said, yeah, of course we remember that. And then I said, have you ever experienced that, what I described, where you witnessed all things at once and witnessed everyone being God? And she said, no, but I've read about it. So I knew what you were talking about. So I had spent like 30 something years or 20, I'm not that old, actually. Hold on. Not that being old is bad, but 20 something years, math,
Yeah.
thinking that they had experienced what I was talking about and had told me to not talk about it.
Mm.
And so it was like it rearranged this whole thing in my mind of like, oh, you haven't witnessed that within yourself yet. Okay, now suddenly all these interactions are making sense. And now I understand more
Yeah.
deeply. So that was fun.
Incredible. Oh my goodness. I love that you had that experience and that you had it at such a young age. Like, talk about the power of that imprinting and how that set the stage for you in so many ways.
For sure, for sure. And then that like immediate like, well, me as God playing other characters telling me to like button it down for a while. And then I like made like a school rose that was like supposed to be normal, which I was so bad at, by the way. So bad at it. Not good at being like, because what is normal? I went through life feeling like everyone had received an instruction manual on how to be a human except me.
Oh,
Like as I grew, I learned that like actually no one knows what they're doing. We're
nope.
all just like playing and pretending and creating. And
Yep.
then so,
Making it
like,
up as we go.
yeah, I went through like this whole like do a science and like be normal in that way, do be a scientist. And then so I got my degree in biology and psychology, and then I ended up like sacrificing my art, right? I didn't focus on art while I was doing that. And like that part of me was like, my spirit needed to be fed and nourished. And then so I ended up in a ton of pain. And then when I healed from that, my art like burst out and I painted like 30 paintings in the span of a month. And like, then it like started coming back as like poetry. And then like, a couple of years later, I learned, oh, I can write music. If I can tune in and channel poetry and art, I can channel songs too. And I've been doing it my whole life. So like this reawakening as God, spirit, energy moving through us as the divine creator, creatrix, and expression of joy is really the vibe.
So good. That's like the secret. We've cracked the code to living the most meaningful and incredible, rewarding kind of lives. Yeah, I really hope that this is, like I said in the prayer, like this is really awakening and activating something within every single person who listens.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that too. Before I record anything, I always set the intention that whoever benefits most from hearing it hears it and it lands in exactly the right way to move them to whatever it is that they need to experience. And
Hi, my beautiful friends. Just a little insert here. Thank you so much for liking, following, sharing the show, for commenting, for posting about it on your social media and tagging us at Joy Channel Podcast. Thank you so much for the love and support over the years. And thank you so much to everyone new in the audience. I really, truly appreciate you. Beginning of this month, I released a course. It is called Create Your Reality, and it is teaching you to architect your life. It is taking you through all the different areas of life to choose your mindset in it and give you the embodiment to actually bring it through and be that version of you, be that person that you've always wanted to be. So check out Create Your Reality. The link is below. And I look forward to all your beautiful results. This process is neuroscience based and holistically beneficial for your mind, your body, your spirit. It's the one I've been using for years and the one I use with my clients. And now I've made it an on-demand course so that you can use it whenever, wherever you want. Shift your reality. Create a life you love. Thank you.
so I also have another question for you, which is, what would you say to the woman who is just starting out her journey? I mean, even that is like we're always on our journey, but who feels like she's met this new level of herself and is just stepping into her power more as far as speaking, public speaking, sharing her
Mhm.
wisdom and what she knows, and really bringing that divinity to the forefront.
Yeah. So when you ask me that question, I really want to answer it from the perspective of my own life experience because even when I started my coaching business and from the get-go, there was a level of success. The work that I had done previously had me be around a lot of people. So when I let people know that I was stepping into life and business coaching, I had people say, "Oh my gosh, I can totally see you doing that. Can I be your client?" I was like, "Yes, you can." And so even really early on in my journey, I was not at all attuned to my intuition, my faith, my spirituality in the way that I am now. There were a lot of like old patterns, programming wounds, really, that were running the show. I was operating my business from a place of not enoughness and perfectionism and people pleasing. And, really, even as a coach, someone guiding others, when I first started, I was really, really disconnected from self, from my body, from my own like inner dialogue, my own inner voice. I think inner dialogue is one thing, but there's that like deep inner voice, intuition, God speaking to and through us. And so there were a lot of things. It was a lot of like me looking for external validation. And again, that disconnection from self really didn't work. So, what I've learned, and I think what's contributed massively to my success, not only, the beautiful $1 million dream home and the business I've been able to create, which I'm so grateful for. Without the success of my business, we would not be in this home right now. So, there's that kind of success, but there's also the success of like, living in alignment with your soul's calling. And I would not have been able to create any of those flavors of success if I had continued down the path of being disconnected from me, of constantly giving my power away, of looking for external validation. And so the thing that I would say to the woman starting out on her journey is the greatest the greatest gift she could give herself is the gift of self-trust, is getting really quiet, is disconnecting from the external noise and turning up the volume within herself. That will get her so much further, so much faster than anything else and listening to any other voice. I really don't take, I mean, I hire coaches for different things and mentors. And so if I'm paying you money, I'm going to listen. I'm going to take your advice. But if I'm not intentionally paying you money and choosing to invest in your wisdom, at this point, like I really don't take advice from a lot of people. There are not a lot of people in my immediate circle who have created things or are living lives that I myself want to live. And so I love you and I'll listen and I'll be there. But the number one voice that I listen to is my own inner voice and the voice of God, which I would venture to say there are moments when I feel like those are two distinct voices. And then there are moments when those are the same. So listen to that voice.
I love that. Oh, shivers. The best gift you can give yourself is self-trust. That's absolutely, absolutely. The word confidence comes from confidere, meaning with faith. So it's like oneself.
Yes.
And I also remembered someone, I don't remember who it was, said that when they tuned into the energy of money, they realized it was the same as the energy of trust. And like the word trust is like in so much of money. So it's like that's currency, is that like trust in the energy that's coming through.
Mm.
And so as a follow-up, I had two questions as a follow-up.
Yeah.
A question that I receive all the time, and I want to hear the way that you answer it because I know it's going to be good, is people always ask, how do I know what I want?
Mm. Yeah. How do I know what I want? So there's different way. What's coming to mind is how do I know what I want feels like it's a big question, but it's connected to something even bigger. And it's really just like, how do I listen to that, my own internal voice? And I think there's a couple of different things we can do and pathways that we can take. But one of the things that was wildly helpful for me and something that I teach, and it may be something that you teach too, is understanding your own intuitive superpowers. And so there are four main superpowers. There's clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, clairaudience, which is clear hearing, claircognizance, which is clear knowing, and clairsentience, which is clear feeling. And so when you understand the way that your own inner voice, intuition, God speaks to and through you, the more you can actively listen and trust it. We're coming back to that. And so, how to know what you want, I feel like really comes down to how do you filter your own information, like your own intuitive information. And what I would do, what's really interesting is the journey when I knew that I needed to make a shift in my career and that moment of motherhood, I have to be honest, it wasn't like coaching is the thing. I didn't know that. What ended up happening was I thought to myself, okay, if I'm not going to do the work I'm currently doing, what kinds of other things would I want to do? And I made a list and I sat with that list and I let myself really look at each item on that list. And because my number one intuitive superpower is clairsentience, clear feeling, very much in the body, the way that my body responds is like, I'll look at something and there's this expansion that happens. In fact, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Danielle Laporte, she has a motto. She says, the light choice is the right choice. What feels light and expansive, and sometimes what feels light and expansive also feels a little scary, right? I call it that nervous sighted energy, like, a little bit of squealing, but like I can feel there's something in that for me. So fear and expansion can live in the same place, but for me, it's how does trying that possibility, that option, that choice on in my body, how does that make me feel? And that's how I know what like where to step and what's for me and also what's not for me because it's like okay, if the light choice is the right choice, then what's the alternative? The alternative is your body kind of feels heavy and it naturally contracts and there's like a repelling like, "Oh, I don't actually want that." And that thing might be actually the right choice for someone else. It's just not the right choice for you. So I think understanding your own intuitive superpowers is what I like to call them. And then perhaps everybody, we can all take that the light choice is the right choice. Give yourself permission to feel into different things and notice even the little spark of excitement or expansion, whatever that might be for you. That's how I would direct somebody if they were like, Dani, I don't know what I want. What do I do? I'd say, okay, what's the list? What are all the things we can think about? Let's get it all out and then let's try on each of those things.
I love that answer. Oh my gosh, that's so perfect. And also timely. I literally last night had the last class that I taught for the 7-week intuitive development course where I guided people through the different clairs. I also included clairalience and clairgustance, which is clear smelling and clear tasting
Yes, yes.
for all the senses.
Yeah.
Um, and so I love hearing you say that because it's like, wow, we really get to deepen our relationship with our senses and ourself. It's that act of using this intelligent device, this organic supercomputer, to really tune in and hone into the truth that is already inside us and being expressed
Yes.
through us. And
Yes.
so it would also, and you mentioned that clairsentience is your main guy. I'm curious to hear you describe or guide, how does someone recognize and differentiate that voice of intuition from that voice of like fear and doubt? And you've touched on it a little bit with the expansive, the lightness and everything. I was
Yeah.
wondering if you'd like to expand on that.
Yeah, yeah. So this is something that I absolutely teach in my signature program, but there I think there's lots of different factors. The things that come through is, to be honest, the majority of the time, and everyone's going to experience this a little bit differently, but I feel like noticing when the voice comes up, similar to what we just talked about, trying it on and noticing how it feels. Fear is going to feel probably a little bit frenetic. It might feel a little bit like that spinning energy. It might actually quite literally feel like how our primitive mind relates to fear, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So, noticing what your response is in that moment. I am curious, Rosemary, how your your experience with this. I find that fear is really loud. I actually feel like fear for me is louder than my own inner voice. It's loud and it's like trying to grab my attention. And it's a lot of like kind of spinning and it talks really quickly. Where for me, my intuition is a little more subtle. It's a bit more calm. There's a simplicity that comes with my own inner voice with that clear sentience. I always say, when I'm going through a meditation, either myself or guiding someone else through a meditation, and part of the meditation might be, meeting a future self or a past self, and it's like, okay, What wisdom might that part of you want to share? It's usually real simple, like a word or a few words. And I feel like when our intuition and our spirit speaks, when God speaks to and through us, it's typically some of the simplest stuff that we'll ever get. And it's exactly what we need in that moment. And that's what makes it so powerful and profound. And so that is sort of some of the distinguishing factors. I feel like fear kind of has this urgency and it's grabbing at you and I like even just saying it and using my body as I'm speaking, like that doesn't feel good. Where there's this like resting into the little more quiet, subtle voice. And sometimes that actually requires more stillness to be able to hear that.
Completely agree. The wisdom is never frantic.
Mm-mm, never.
It's not going to scream at you and be like, you know, telling you that bad things are happening. Um, and this is something that is true with manifestation as well, where we get to tune into whatever of the infinite iterations of reality exist.
Yeah.
People are tuned into an energy of like, oh, well, my intuition told me that this person is dying, maybe. But also, if you tune into your wisdom, can you use your consciousness, your God consciousness, to see them in health, to see them well, and allow that to come through? Because sometimes what I've noticed is people will unconsciously use their conscious decrees to keep other people unconscious in their own reality, in their own experience of reality. Like looking at someone and saying, well, they don't know and they will never understand. It's like, well, as you wish. So you will never get to experience them in their fullness and their wisdom if you keep saying that. But we can easily shift that. And so using that wisdom and that intuition to go back to that stillness, because that even too, that is going to come from fear. Looking at someone, and that's going to come from someone's fear of what, not being heard or understood or perceived. And what is that really? A fear of maybe you're not listening to your intuition, that voice that's telling you all is well, all is well, all is well. Refocus, come back to wisdom, come back to love, come back to knowing, come back to that knowingness, be that anchor for love and light and wisdom and creation. And so there's one more thing that I wanted to remark on that you had said. Oh, you were curious as to my experience of fear being loud versus intuition and wisdom being more quiet. That is why we practice and cultivate strengthening our inner voice so that we can discern and recognize the wisdom. And yeah, I think that that's because wisdom doesn't need to shout to take authority. And that's the thing too. If people are getting louder and shouting to be heard, it's because they're afraid of not being heard. I was on a TikTok live last night and someone asked me to flow poetry around fear, releasing fear. And so something that I like to do and how I like to witness words as spells, as structure and directions of energy, is each letter directs energy in a specific way. So focus, F is all up in it's got a little line in the heart, but it's mostly in the head. So it's what we perceive and see. So our focus is drawn and it's making a meaning of what we see. E is energy and it's coming out of all the centers in like kind of like a toroidal field. But how I perceive the energy of fear is focused energy at root. So focus the energy at the root. So you're literally looking at one outcome or, maybe multiple fearful outcomes, but you're looking at that and you're saying, that is what's happening. This thing that I'm so scared of is you're honing in on this tunnel vision, focused it all at that one root, and you're ignoring the infinite of options that are out there. And so getting to realize, hey, all things exist, and zooming out and looking, oh, wow, actually, there's tons of other options available to us. Beautiful things get to happen too. So that loud, pervasive voice of fear is simply asking for attention so that we can look it in the eye and say, oh, actually, this is not reality. This is not reality, and then zoom out. So if you're ever in fear, if you're ever feeling like honed in, like that very animalistic, like panic, like you've seen like animals when they're cornered. You've seen it in people too. We are animals. We like this body is an animal. that like cornered look and the distortion that happens in the face as well. Like if you've ever, I loved when I began noticing this, but if I ever saw some of my friends and they were like experiencing something different in fear, suddenly they were speaking from their head. Suddenly their voice shifted up into their head and maybe their face was a little distorted. And it's very interesting. I noticed one day my friend started looking more like a donkey to me. And I was like, that's interesting. Just the way that the facial features distorted because of the fear coming out. And so I could tell that they were masking because they were scared. And so in recognizing that subtlety, and that's practice, cultivating that practice, then we get to come back to our wisdom and let that quiet voice be dominant. And wisdom, right? The dominion of the wise.
I love that. So beautiful. Rosemary, you touched on something so incredibly powerful, something that I've never actually had like an official conversation around, but I've noticed that I do. And, you had talked about the like fear is focusing on that one thing on the root. And you were talking about the infinite number of possibilities and realities. And that's actually something like a question that I'll ask myself and I'll even ask my clients when I'm making an assumption that something or someone is always just going to be this way and I don't actually like it. I'll stop and I'll say, okay, I know that I feel that way about the path ahead, but is there a reality where we get to experience something different? And 100% of the time, my answer, and it's not just like a blind yes, but it's like, actually, I do. I do believe that there are an infinite number of realities that we get to plug into. And if this one is not working, then I get to intentionally and energetically align with a different path that feels more in alignment with what I actually want. And I'll never forget, I was a friend of mine. She's an incredible healer. She has very, very accurate, like psychic and mediumship gifts. This actually feels really vulnerable, what I'm going to share right now. But this was many, many years ago. For those of you who have been in partnership for a long time, me and my husband have been together 15 years. The 7-year itch is a real thing. It is so real. But it was like the 7-year mark of our marriage and we had hit a little bit of a wall. And if I'm being completely honest, I did not really see a path forward. Like we were in at such an interesting and uncomfortable place that I could not see a future for us beyond that. And I met with her and she said, Dani, if you continue down the path that you're on right now, there is not a future for you and your husband in this marriage, but you don't have to stay on this path. And that was when I had learned, and she didn't share it like this, but I imagine it as the sun and I am the sun, like I am the energetic ball of fire and there's these limitless rays of sunshine coming off of me and it's literally as simple as choosing a new path forward. That was 7 or 8 years ago. And what we've created now together in partnership is like, I cannot believe, I mean, I have to, right? Because we do this work in #manifestation, but like, I really could not see us getting to this place. And now that we're at this place, it is better and dreamier and more love filled and easeful than I ever thought. Like, I didn't think I could create it with this person. I thought I'd have to like find a different person and start all over. And really, what happened was I was given the opportunity to choose a new reality, to step into something new that forever changed my life. And so to this day, when I feel like this is the end all be all, it's like, hold on, I actually know that that isn't true. There's a different reality that I can choose to tap into. And that's one of the most expansive things. And I'm so glad you touched on that. So glad.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that so much. I love hearing that remembrance and recognition. And yeah, I do this every day, all day, where if I notice a story happening, right? And that's cultivate body awareness. If your body's responding like, oh, wait, I'm choosing right now. I'm choosing right now. That is my free will. That is my choice as to what of the infinite I tune into. What do I choose to witness? What do I choose to bear witness to? So I'm choosing right now. What am I choosing to witness? Am I choosing to witness everything's getting better and better? People are healing. Everyone in my field is healed. everything is so beautiful. People are connecting with their spirit and bringing beautiful things into the world. There's a lot of noise that people can tune into. There's a lot of story, right? And if people think that the world is not going well, go outside, go spend some time with the flowers, go readjust your sails and pick a different direction, because hopeless is a direction, just as hopeful is a direction. So you can either be full of wisdom, full of hope, full of love, or you can believe in the lack of things, believe that things will not get better, when we consistently get to witness the exact opposite of that. And so that's like coming from choice. It's absolutely choice. Everything exists. The infinite exists. You get to choose whatever it is. And that really came through for me when I healed my neck, because of what I chose was, I recognized the story I'd been telling was, I'm in so much pain and I hate my life. And then when I felt my body respond to that one day, because finally, like, I'd hit a point where I couldn't listen to any more podcasts. So finally, after a year of laying on my back, I was like, I can't listen to anything else. I turned it all off. And then I just breathed and I realized, oh, I'm laying down, but I'm holding my body so tight. So I breathed and started relaxing it. And then a thought came in and my body tightened up again in response to it. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, if my body is responding to that, I was like, oh, that's like, I'm psychically attacking my body with my thoughts. Psychikos means of the mind, right? So I'm sending that energy, I'm pulsing that through my system, and my body is responding to it. Let me give my body something else to respond to. And then so I started mining for joy. That's where the joy channel came from, was I was like, oh, let me cultivate joy and grow it like it's a garden. So what do I love to do? I couldn't move at the time. So I just visualized myself body surfing and climbing mountains and doing all these things and saying, I will do this. I've done this before. I will do it again. And I started telling the story of, my body has always been perfect, because that's the thing, is sometimes when we're in pain or we experience something, we can fall into the illusion that our body isn't perfect, but your body is perfect. It's perfectly responding and forming from whatever it is that you're putting through it, with thought, with vision. So give it something good to construct itself from. It is in formation.
So good. I love that you touched on hope. Such like a simple four-letter word that holds so much power. Taking it back to the conference, I was just so inspired by this past weekend. I did not know this, that one of the three theological virtues, so it's faith, hope, and charity slash love. Charity and love go together. And hope is the unshakable belief that good things are coming. And someone said that one who hopes lives differently. And that's exactly what I was hearing you say. It's like there are two completely opposite paths, and it's to live from the energy of hope and what that creates. And then there's the energy of hopeless. And one is, we don't have to label it, one is not necessarily good or bad, but it's like really feel into, what does the path and the frequency of hope lead to? And then hopeless, where does that lead? And just like you said, we have the free will, we have the sovereignty, we get to choose. And I think every single one of us have had journeys where we've unconsciously been going down the path of not having any hope. And that doesn't feel very good. Where that leads is not very expansive or empowering. And that's when we have those moments of like, oh, let me shift my attention. I was in a kind of a dark season. A little over a year ago. And I realized, oh my gosh, what the heck have I been focusing on? And the mantra that got me out of that was so simple. When you focus on the good gets better. And then it gets better. And then it gets better. And it was one of those dark moments where it was like, I had to really focus on the teeniest tiniest things because I could not find like the bigger levels of goodness, but it was like, okay, I have this water and I am overall in this moment healthy and my kids are healthy and those are really good things. So I'm going to focus on that. And sure enough, I reminded myself every day, when you focus on the good gets better, and then it gets better, and then it gets better. And we flipped the switch and things are feeling much better now. And that's not to say that I might not have another season where I unconsciously slip into hopeless and life gets really hard. But I'm confident that I have the tools, that when I'm ready, I can choose something different. And right now I'm in a place of choosing hope and goodness and allowing life to just get better and better and better and better.
Love it. I love hearing that. And yes, it's the little things, right? The my bed is so comfortable. Thank God I have a bed. So grateful. My like the beautiful paintings, colors are so pretty. Colors exist all the time and we can just look at them and enjoy them. And so then I was
Mm,
thinking about how charity and joy are related in service, where it's when we are giving from our overflow, our
yes.
joy, we're spreading joy, we're spreading wisdom and grace and love through our actions because we are abundant in it and we have so much to give. And that's also another thing where it's like being certain to not give from like, you know, if you are not overflowing your cup and you keep depleting yourself to give, then that is showing you have so much of your vessel to fill and so much joy to experience and so much love to share. So allow yourself to be fully nourished by spirit and then know that in your presence you will naturally be overflowing love in your presence as the way that you walk, the way that you breathe, the way that you interact with everyone. And you are such a good example of this, Dani, like the light that you carry and that you bring to people simply by conversation. It's just always such a joy to witness you speaking because you have this beautiful lightness that is just so authentic to your being. And so that is beauty in action.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I receive that. I receive that. I receive that. I receive that. These are things I know intellectually, but as I'm moving through the world, I can forget it. So just having your loving reflection, I feel like that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give others in our lives is just the loving reflection of who we see them as and who they are for us. That's one of my favorite things to receive and also one of my absolute favorite things to give because I know how soul filling that is. And again, it's not about necessarily external validation, but it's a really good reminder of like, okay, who I'm being in the world is really truly making a difference. Because I think sometimes, admittedly, like we can have our moments where we forget that. And so, thank you, thank you, thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here today. And now, as we wrap up, is there any last things that you're guided to share with us to bring more love and joy into the world or whatever it is that you're desiring to gift today?
Yeah, so this has been one of the most fun, expansive conversations. I feel like having conversations like this, being on different stages or being on podcasts, this is one of my favorite ways to give and share my work and my gifts. And so thank you so much for asking me to be here, for giving me the opportunity to be here. And for everybody listening, if you are still here, celebrating you for hanging out with us this entire time. And my deepest desire is that you had your own, at the very beginning, I used one of my favorite terms, a holy shift. I shared one of my many holy shift moments. And I'm hoping that today you had at least one, if not many holy shift moments, whether they're really big or even the subtlest ones that are gonna really shape who you become and where you go from here and what's available for you. And I don't know if how you all feel about this. I feel like I have, if I'm being honest, like a little bit of like a love, not hate, but like love, not like so much with the social medias. I think it can sometimes be such a distraction. And Rosemary was talking about noise. It can be a really noisy place. But I'm so grateful for different social media platforms and technology these days because it really gives us the gift to connect with the most extraordinary souls all over the world. And if there's any part of this conversation that really lit you up or you want to share with me personally, I would love for you to come hang out with me on Instagram. It's just my name. It's at Dani Kenney. I'm a big fan. Rosemary knows this. I think we both are. I'm a voice note gal all the way. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear the vibration of your soul. So send me a voice note, send me a message. I would absolutely love to stay connected and learn a little bit more about you.
I love that. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And is there anywhere else people can find you? I will put all the links in the description.
Yeah, of course. So I'm big on the Instagram. I'm a little old school. I feel like jokingly, but also seriously, I think the term is like a geriatric millennial. Like I'm like the oldest. like the oldest millennial. And so where I'm going with that is like I've had Facebook for a really long time and I'm really active on there. I feel like people are using Facebook less and less, but if that's your jam, it is also my jam. And Rosemary, if it's okay, I do have a bundle of meditations. It's three meditations were only available inside of my paid coaching programs. And these three meditations, it's a future self meditation, a client attraction meditation, and a meditation all around becoming a magnet for money, which I love that you touched on the energy of money and trust. And so I had my clients listening to these meditations, and within like minutes and hours of listening, they were sending me the most insane testimonials. And I was like, I want to get these meditations in the ears and minds and hearts of more people because I want to see more people, not just my paid coaching clients, having insane results like this. So, Rosemary, I'll share that link with you, and any of your people can go download these totally free. Just my gift, a gift from me to all of you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. You're so generous and beautiful. I'm so happy. Guys, go check out her meditations. She's fantastic. She was one of my coaches last year in 2024. And I just, every week, getting to spend time with her was such a beautiful gift and a boon. And I'm grateful for it every day. So thank you for sharing your wisdom, your voice, your vibration, your essence. And thank you for being here today. And
Thank you
yes,
for
I
having me.
love this conversation too. Thank
I
you.
love you. I love you. I love you. This was so incredible.
Thank you so much. All right. And as always, guys, you can find me at Joy Channel Podcast on Instagram, at Roam Wild Arts on Instagram. I have a new song that will be out by the time this episode is out. It's called Wanderer. Check it out. And my third book of poetry, Time Now One, came out at the end of January. So the link will be there for that too. And if you desire coaching from me, check out rosemaryfrancis.com. And I believe Danny's is
It's DaniKenneyCoaching.com is the website. Thank you for that. DaniKenneyCoaching.com. You got it.
DaniKenneyCoaching.com, and you can't go wrong either way. So everything is perfect. Thank you so much for being here, and everyone have an absolutely beautiful week.